Hello and welcome to ANF Plus Sports Tonight. I'm Fred Khalil. Joining us is Georgia's national champion quarterback, Buck Belue of 680 The Fan. Buck, thanks so much for joining us. And we have to start with some really sad news with Jalen Carter. The charges this young man faces, police, want to question him and possibly arrest him for reckless driving and racing. A sad story with the staffer, Chandler LaCroix, and Devin Willock, another player, killed in that accident. They were drag racing. And just, what your thoughts are on that, and what do you think Jalen faces?
Well, obviously my first thoughts are for the families involved, Fred, especially the Willocks, second son they've lost in a car accident, as I understand it, and Chandler LaCroix. Thoughts and prayers going out to their family too. But Jalen Carter, I'm really anxious to hear what the next shoe to drop will be. Understand he's saying he's got some information that he'll share that will prove that it's going to clear him of these charges, and I'm anxious to hear that. But this is obviously, as far as football goes, this is the big red flag for Jalen Carter.
I was going to ask you, what do you think that does to his draft stock now? I mean, he was projected as the number one overall pick to the Bears. It doesn't appear that might not happen, or it appears that might not happen now. So what are your thoughts on that and what it'll do to his draft stock?
Well, I think he'll drop, obviously. Talk about him with the Bears not needing a quarterback. There's a chance he could have gone number one if the Bears don't move out of that number one spot and trade down. So we're talking about Mel Kiper Jr., I believe, is saying that he's expecting now the projection for Carter to be in the third round. So just look at last year's draft. Trayvon Walker, his former teammate, signed a 4-year, $37 million contract with $37 million guaranteed. And look at Nakobe Dean, who went in the third round to the Eagles last year in the draft, and he signed a $5.2 million deal. So you're talking about, as far as the money involved here, Jalen Carter most likely has lost out on a payday of about $30 million.
Man, that's a whole lot of money, Buck. There's no doubt about that. And not only what this do for his draft stock, but what does this do to the team? I've got to tell you, I can remember my freshman year, we had a teammate die in a car accident in a similar situation, and it was just terrible. I mean, it did bring the team together, but it was just an awful experience to go through. I mean, how does a team deal with that?
Well, I hope it would make them closer, a tighter group. Even with the fan base, though, this really took the excitement out of winning that second consecutive national championship. The story came around so fast. It really hit the fan base hard, especially the team. So how you overcome that, I just don't know if you ever can overcome something like that. It's going to be something they'll always remember, and not in a good way. So this is difficult for everybody involved, for the families, for Jalen Carter, for the team, even the fan base. This is one of those tough ones that in life you just somehow you're going to have to, I would say, seek some prayer and try to find some strength and guidance through prayer to try to help you through this.
Okay, now let's talk about who could move up in the draft. Will Anderson Jr., it's a guy that we know is from here, right? Dutchtown High School, Alabama, edge rusher. He was projected to go very high already. Could he go to that number one spot now?
Well, again, he could. And, I look at him as the top football player in the draft, is the way I view it. So, yeah, Chicago needs some defensive line help, whether it's tackle or defensive end, outside linebacker. So he would definitely fit the bill, be a great fit for the Chicago Bears. They might be able to trade out of the number one spot, move back with the Texans at 2 or the Colts at 4, and still be able to get Will Anderson Jr. So the Bears are in a really good spot. At this point, Will Anderson will capitalize on this Jalen Carter red flag.
Now, let's talk about some other Georgia players to watch. Who do you like out there, and who should we keep our eye on for the draft coming up?
Well, they like to refer to this as the Underwear Olympics, and I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see Darnell Washington get out there at 6'7", 275 pounds, try to run that 4.5 40, and watch him run around and catch the football. His stock's going to go up when those scouts get a good look at him. And then also Keely Ringo's got a chance to be a first-round draft pick.
Wow.
Coming into this process, he's probably projected as a late to maybe a late first, second round pick, but he's got a chance to impress and it's got a chance to come out of this as a first round pick. So anxious to see what Keeley does.
Let's talk about the young man, the edge rusher from Georgia Tech, Keon White. I mean, 6'5", 285. I mean, he looks like a guy that could really be a draft pick that could be up there very high as well.
Well, it is a premier position in the NFL. As you know, they're going to throw it 40 times a game, most every team. So you need pass rushers. And he's a guy that can certainly get after the passer, get the quarterback on the ground. You put a big price tag on that. So he's in a really good spot. First round, second round, anything beyond that, I'd be stunned if he didn't go before the end of the second round.
Stetson Bennett. We always talk about Stetson Bennett. It always comes back to the quarterback. Where does he fall, or where does he fit in this year's draft, in your mind?
Well, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen here. I think what's really important for Stetson right now are the interviews that you have with the teams at the Combine, and he's going to have a chance to sit down with the teams that want to speak with him, talk about the incident in Dallas, the arrest he had there, clear the air on that topic. He's got a really great opportunity to form some relationships in these interviews, Fred. So I think it's really important. He missed that at the Senior Bowl. He's got a chance to do that here at the Combine. That's going to be really important for him. He's going to lay down a 4.5 40, so that's going to be fun to watch. And then looking forward to seeing him throw the football around, too, on Saturday. He'll be one of the quarterbacks that does throw. But I like his skill set. I didn't get to see Fran Tarkenton play. I saw the highlights of when Fran played, another great Georgia quarterback. And, I really think the skill set is similar between Stetson and Fran. Just driving defense is crazy with their mobility to get outside the pocket, extend plays, make big plays in the passing game, getting out of that pocket. So I think there's a place for Stetson. I really think a great fit for him would be with the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, similar skill set. I don't know why some of these NFL teams don't try to match the quarterback skill sets with your starter and the second team guys. So you don't have to change the offensive scheme when you have an injury. So, there's a place for Stetson, but anxious to see how this goes for him.
We talk about this all the time with Stetson, but, I mean, the guy's really been underappreciated, I think, but he does have the tools. He did stick around, I mean, a lot longer than a lot of people thought, but he did come through. I mean, he did win a lot of games, and the guy is a proven winner. So despite maybe on paper, he doesn't look great, he seems to have the intangibles. Would you agree with that?
Well, the red flag's going to be the size or the lack thereof, and I'm just stunned, it's not a big deal for Bryce Young, but it's a big deal for Stetson Bennett. I mean, I'm a little surprised they're not more consistent about the size, but I think he's got some great tape out there for these NFL personnel guys. He's played in big games and played at a high level, so they've got plenty of great tape, video to look at with Stetson. Again, I think the interview thing is going to be key for him, trying to win some of these teams over.
How about some other guys that you like that we're going to see go in the draft? Who are some other guys that you kind of like that maybe are underappreciated?
Well, I like Broderick Jones, Georgia's offensive tackle. He is a outstanding pass blocker. I think, these outlets like Pro Football Focus would give him an A+ on pass blocking. So that is something to keep an eye on is Broderick Jones. I thought he did a good job in the run game. So he's an offensive tackle. Again, premier position. You got to protect the quarterback. So I think Broderick's in a good place too. Perhaps we'll see him as a first-round draft pick.
And you know what? Spring football is not that far away, so the Dogs have to sit there and get ready to go without all of these guys. And how does that look as we head into spring with Georgia?
Yeah, well, all the talks about the quarterback competition, you got Carson Beck, who looks like the incumbent here. He'll get, probably the first snaps with the first team. Brock Vandegrift and Gunnar Stockton are excellent prospects. We'll find out just how far along they are in the process. This is going to be really compelling. This team's going to be loaded with talent, Fred, as you know. So these guys are going to be fighting to be the quarterback, QB1 on this team. So that should be really compelling this spring. And then I want to see the cornerback spot opposite of Kamari Lassiter, who played well as a first-year starter. How do they replace Keely Ringo? And they've got a lot of young, talented cornerbacks on that roster they're going to be taking a look at this spring. So that's another position that should be really intriguing.
The defensive line, though, I mean, they got to replace some guys. We just talked about Jalen Carter. I mean, on that D line, they need to rotate some guys in there as well, don't they?
They've got some tremendous depth. Trey Scott, my goodness, he's done a great job recruiting and then developing this young talent. They've got enough coming back to be able to fill the void with Jalen Carter leaving there. They've got some experience and some young talent that I'm excited to see. I think this will be another year. We'll see Georgia's defensive line be a major factor helping them win football games.
Well, the spring game should be fun, Buck. Let's talk now. Let's switch it if we could and talk a little baseball, huh? The Braves down at spring training. What do the Braves need to do to not only win that division again, but go a little bit farther?
Well, I just love the everyday lineup, Fred. When you look 1 through 9 in that batting order, this is as deep as a lineup as you're going to see. Looking for Michael Harris, the second, to do some great things in his second year on the job. And this new catcher they got, Murphy, coming in, can swing the bat. Ozuna is going to be a key here. Can he contribute as the DH? And that left field spot, probably be a platoon situation out left. But I tell you, 1 through 9 in this batting order, they're going to score some runs. This might be the best lineup in baseball. The concern for me is the health of the rotation. You know, that the depth, the quality depth got thinned out a little bit, trading for guys like Murphy and Olson. Right now, they're not that deep as far as starting pitchers go. So Soroka, how Anderson does, I know he got off to a rough start. I'm not worried about him. I think he's just working on some new pitches, new delivery. I hope that's what it is. So not freaking out about his start yesterday. Hoping Soroka can give it a go and get past those injuries with the Achilles that he's had. That's going to be really big. Elder is a guy that pitched a little bit last year in the rotation and it's got some promise, but they're not as deep there as they were a year ago. Worst case scenario, I guess Anthopoulos could go out and get somebody, try to plug it up, but you're going to end up needing 8 to 10 starters during the course of the year anyway. But I tell you, Freed and I think Strider is going to have a tremendous year in year number 2. Wright was great. I hope he can back it up. And then Charlie Morton. Those first 4 look really strong. It's that 5th spot they're going to have to get straightened out coming out of spring training.
You know, Spencer Strider is a guy who, we kind of focus too much, I think, on his character as, the character that he's become. But, I mean, that dude is pumping it near 100 miles an hour, man. I mean, he can bring it.
Yeah, and look, that fastball is hard to catch up to. I mean, he's sitting at about 100 miles an hour throwing it. But as the other stuff gets better, the changeup, maybe we see a little bit more out of the changeup this year. The breaking ball was good a year ago. He's really a 2-pitch pitcher last season. He's hoping to develop that 3rd pitch that could help him go deeper in games, like Max Fried and Kyle Wright did. They need Strider to be able to pitch that 7th inning so you don't have so much wear and tear on the bullpen. But I'm just expecting we're going to see him have a big season.
Well, that starting rotation, as it always has been for the Braves during their successful runs, has been strong, and they've just proven how much that helps, when you've got that starting pitching and those guys that can go deep. I had somebody, was looking at his personal scorebook and just said, man, look at all the innings these guys chew up. And you just pointed that out. Just if a starter can chew up those innings and save that bullpen, just how important that is.
Yeah, and I love the closer. Raisel Iglesias came in. He barely gave up a run last season after the trade deadline deal that got him in here. He takes over as the closer. He is just lights out. He's on the attack with that fastball and the changeup that he's got. I mean, it's just a phenomenal 1-2 punch that he's got. I think he's going to have a great year closing out these victories coming out of the bullpen, too. So looking forward to seeing Iglesias this season.
All righty, Buck, anything else on your mind tonight you'd like to talk about?
Well, Dansby's gone, and I know the fan base is hurting over that, but I'm hearing great things about Vaughn Grissom at shortstop. He's a guy that can swing the bat. I like that part of it. Defensively, we'll learn more as spring training goes on, but he's off to a good start down there, and he's got some big shoes to fill trying to replace the fan favorite, Dansby Swanson. So hopefully Vaughn's going to be able to take it and run with it there at shortstop.
Well, he did a great job at second base last year, so shortstop, they always say, is his more natural position. So I guess Braves fans are hoping he can pull it out and do that. Let's talk about first base, though, real quick, too, because, Olsen, fan favorite Freddie Freeman was gone, and Olsen came in, a local guy, and did a great job and seemed to win the fan base over. So maybe Grissom can do the same.
Yeah, and I'd say our corner infield is the best in baseball, maybe other than that pair they've got in St. Louis, Arenado and Goldsmith. They're up there in age, though. We're looking at Austin Riley and Matt Olson. They're going to be around. They're under long-term deals. They're in the prime of their career. This is the best third and first base combination moving forward in the world today. They're hitting the ball out of the ballpark. They're playing good defense. They're great teammates, which don't underestimate the best of these teams like the Mets and Philly.
You talked about that, but I think even like when the visiting media comes in, and Brian Sticker kind of picked up right where Bobby Cox left off, just the culture in the clubhouse and that translates to how they treat the media and how they treat the fans, really, I think is the culture and the example that's set by the manager all the way down, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. This is a first-class organization, but hey, when a guy like you walks in the room, Fred, you're getting respect.
Yeah.
So no surprise the Braves are treating you,
right.
In the way they treat you, man. It's just a testimony to the great job you've done through the year.
All righty. Hey, Buck, thanks so much for joining us here on ANF Plus. We appreciate it. Buck Belue, 680 The Fan. Always enjoy Buck. What about your podcast, Buck? Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, the show, the Buck Belue Show on 680 The Fan, 10 to 11, and then we've got Buck's Beat, the podcast, and talking a lot of Georgia football and Braves baseball from week to week. Some great guests. Got Dale Murphy up right now, episode 82. You can find it at thepodcastpark.com or wherever it is you get your podcast. Talking with Dale Murphy about the Braves is the podcast that's up right now. I appreciate you letting me mention that.
Of course, Buck. Thanks so much for joining us. Buck Belue.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Buck. Great job, man.
Hey, thanks, Fred.
We definitely got to get those plugs in, man. Come on.